So 7 years ago, when the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, Nintendo Wii launched, video games were in a very different place. There was no Android, there was no iPhone, no app stores, no Kickstarter. We hadn't yet proven cloud gaming could work and so on.
Have we proved it yet?
Haven't proved it yet? Well, we don't know about the business model, but we've seen that the technology works. You guys worked on some of that. Anyhow, within the next month, though, the new Xbox One and PlayStation 4 will launch into a very different place where all of these things do exist, and there are all kinds of crazy ideas for peripherals like the Oculus Rift, the Leap Motion, you can move your hands and control things. And we're curious which of these technologies will gamers flock to, which ones will actually be viable gaming platforms. And a lot of that depends on the support from developers. Software drives hardware. We know that gamers will go where the good games are. And here with me today, I have Nvidia's Tony Tamasi, SVP of Content and Technology, and Epic's Mark Rein. Epic Games makes the Unreal Engine. Both of these gentlemen here with me today make tools that developers use to build these games. And I figure they might have some insight into where these platforms are going now. So I wanted to actually start with mobile. Tony at Nvidia has a device called the Nvidia Shield. It's a Android video game console you can play with in your hand, and this allows the Android games to expand to new genres like first-person shooters that were possible before, perhaps. Mark Rein over here, his company builds a game called Infinity Blade, which pushes the graphics on mobile, and we're eager to see. I'm eager to find out. When do traditional game developers take mobile seriously and build immersive experiences for these smartphones and tablets that people have today?
Well, I think that's already happening. I mean, that's what we did with Infinity Blade just 3 years ago. And I think you're already seeing a lot of really cool games coming to mobile and near mobile platforms. And so I think that's already happening now. Right? We're getting better and better technology every year. We're starting to be able to do now things on iPhone and Android devices that a few years ago we could do on console. So I think that's already going on.
And that's kind of the soul of Shield, or at least one of the souls of it, was to start to put a device that was a little bit more core gamer focused out there. If we build it eventually, that we think they'll come. High performance, SoC with Tegra, great controller, built-in screen, so that you can start to go after some of these games that are a little bit more core, action, shooters, that kind of thing, to help just kind of seed that momentum. And I think Mark's right. You're starting to see increasingly games on mobile that 3 years ago you wouldn't have seen. And increasingly developers are going there because I think maybe mobile almost bifurcates a little bit. There's the phone style of play, and then there's the everything else style of play. And if you look at session times for phone versus tablet, they're different. You look at the way people play on phone versus tablet, it's different. And I think tablets are almost a platform different from phones, even though we think of them both as mobile. But the way that people are playing on tablets starts to look a lot like the way people play on PCs and consoles, which is pretty exciting.
When do you think that these devices will really challenge video game consoles in terms of the amount of time people spend using it? If they decide to choose their time playing a game, when will it be they decide to choose the phone or tablet instead of the console in a scenario where they do have access to both in the living room and the home, places like that where they have access to both?
Well, I'm playing on both, so I think that's already happened. I think we're already seeing that. But what I think is happening is you're seeing an expansion of gaming. I coined a phrase back when we first started putting the Infinity Blade on the iPhone and the iPad, and I said AAA isn't going away, it's going everywhere. And I think you're really seeing that happening now. People are playing games on their phones when they have time to play on the phones. They're playing games on their tablets when they have time to play on the tablets. And there's obviously still, as we can see from GTA, playing lots and lots of games on their console as well.
We understand now that there's going to be new chips on the horizon. They're going to unlock more, I want to say, console-style gaming on these devices. I'm curious when the immersion level catches up.
That's a good question. If you look at the current generation of mobile SoCs, the horsepower that they offer is below that of even the current generation, let alone the next generation consoles. But
Which, by the way, is kind of like totally counter to what most people in the industry actually think is happening. You hear these people saying all the time, oh, phones and tablets are more powerful than Xbox 360s and PlayStation 3s. It's just not the case.
Not yet. But I think we showed, I think for the first time at SIGGRAPH, a project we're working on called Logan, which actually brings GeForce class graphics, basically the current generation Kepler, to mobile, which is actually from a horsepower perspective better than the current generation consoles. And from a feature set perspective, essentially equivalent to DirectX, well, it actually can run DirectX 11 or OpenGL 4.4, which essentially is the same capabilities and feature set of the next-gen consoles.
Wait, which game engine did you demo that?
We actually happen to demonstrate one of Mark's engines.
I get to make a plug.
Run a full UE4 engine on that platform.
Right. The impressive thing is Nvidia has actually ported the desktop version of OpenGL to Logan, which is the code name for this chip, and we're able to run our next generation PC game on it, and it's amazing, ridiculously impressive.
Which next generation? You got a next generation PC game that's going to run on a mobile platform?
Yes, that one.
That we're going to play on a mobile platform? We'll be able to
Well,
buy maybe a mobile platform?
hopefully we'll be able to play it and buy it on every platform where it's appropriate. But I mean, that's something that we couldn't do previously. I mean, by having that desktop driver, being able to bring all the shaders and all the technology we were using on the desktop and run on a mobile device, this was an absolute eureka moment for us that we knew was coming. I mean, we talked to Nvidia, obviously we were close with them. We know their roadmaps, but I don't think we thought it was coming this soon. So that's where we're really crossing the line.
And the other
I was going to ask, is the trajectory actually going to cross over at some point? We've seen the new next generation consoles. You can buy a PC right now that does not have the same amount of, that has more horsepower, I should say, a lot more horsepower.
But you always could. There's
The next gen consoles.
But there's no news there. You always could. I don't think there was any point in history where you couldn't do that.
Sure.
And people make a big deal out of that, but
But
I mean, it's really exciting. It's really like, we don't want to denigrate the next generation consoles here. They're really powerful, and with massive amounts of RAM, they're going to open up huge new capabilities that a PC couldn't do because most users were using 32-bit operating systems up until this past year even. And so I don't want to you can always build a super PC and you can always build a great gaming kit, but the kind of the media wish that the consoles are more powerful than the PC has never actually been true.
Fair. I think
It doesn't make them bad.
My question though is about the mobile trajectory.
Oh, that's easy.
Because, okay. That's something we don't see happening that you're that mobile
It'll be a
chips
while
are so much.
before mobile
Right,
has
so
a next-gen console. It'll be a while. But the cool thing about mobile, much like the PC, is it just keeps getting better every year. And mobile's on a really torrid pace. The horsepower of mobile platforms is increasing faster than any other interesting platform. And so in a few years, it'll double and double and double again. And if the consoles don't, come out with the next gen, then at some point it's inevitable that they will pass them. And that's nothing new either, right? The PC's done that, and so that's just the nature of the different business models. The console tends to be a fixed platform for a period of time, and then they try to take a big step function up. Whereas the mobile platforms and the PC platforms just keep ratcheting up, not to the same degree every year, but they do it year over year over year.
I can absolutely see a point where, if we do things like Nvidia's doing with Logan, where users make the conscious decision, instead of buying my next laptop, I'm just going to buy a tablet. Because now that tablet can game as well as the last desktop computer I bought 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, or 3 years. I'm assuming they bought a low or mid-range desktop. I'm not talking about the super high-end stuff. But the point is that I could see that happening. We're already starting to see that with laptops. Every time Apple releases a new laptop, they're using the top-of-the-range Nvidia mobile GPU, like the new MacBook Pro, for example. Even Intel is finally getting their crap together and delivering okay GPUs. And so, I could see that maybe that might be a challenging function to laptops, where people could say, okay, a tablet with a keyboard or not is good enough for me because now I can do these games. And you heard the speaker before us talk about even being able to connect a controller and have an input device.
So that's the other thing I'm hearing a lot about. So there's the mobile, because how fast is the trajectory going to shoot up? Will that be the viable platform? The other question is PC going to be a real force. And what I hear a lot of is, well, PC is where the Oculus Rift is.
Yep.
It's where the Verge Zombies, it's where all of these crazy new Kickstarter controllers and virtual reality wearables can all connect to your computer. But the road is littered with peripherals for PCs that haven't taken off because you can't expect users to necessarily buy them.
But that's okay.
That's
That's just the nature of innovation. Not everything succeeds. But the cool thing about the PC is that it's a platform that allows for that innovation. And the PC, there's been PCs that have failed, but there's been a whole bunch that have succeeded. And it's the single largest, installed base of gaming gadgets that are really capable of gaming out there. And from a gamer market, I think, 65 million folks on Steam seem to think that gaming in the PC is pretty cool, and it keeps growing. So I think that's good. And the fact that it's open allows all this innovation and crazy ideas.
But when I buy one of these things, if I go out and I buy an Oculus Rift, for instance,
Yeah.
I would do that hoping, maybe foolishly hoping, that it would have a wealth of content people develop for it. There's kind of a chicken and egg
Actually,
out of it.
Oculus already has a pretty decent amount of content. I mean, you'd be surprised if you go to their little Oculus Rift store. There's tons of, and a lot of it is very experimental and very indie-based, but there's some really, really cool stuff there. I mean, that is for sure where a lot of amazing software innovation is happening. And obviously, the Oculus guys still have more, I think Brendan spoke yesterday, they have a lot more revolutions to go through before they release their big consumer product. But I mean, you connect that to a leading edge PC with all that power, and you have that great immersive experience. I mean, I think it's really great for the gaming business that people are embracing.
It's a wonderful experience, but in your positions, knowing what you do about technology and development, do you see any of these new wearables, the virtual reality, the augmented reality, do you see any of them truly catching on things for maybe the Oculus?
The good news is,
I'm not sure.
We provide the technology to let developers leverage them, and then consumers get to decide. We don't have to decide if Oculus wins today, or if a watch wins, or this wins, or that wins. We don't have to sit here and make those decisions. Both Nvidia and Epic, we provide the technology that enables them to be really cutting edge and do really amazing stuff, and then the consumers get to decide with their dollars whether they're going to be successful.
I mean, there's certainly a lot of interest in it. I mean, I can't recall a genre that's generated as much buzz as the Oculus guys have done. And there's lots of people doing really good work in VR in that space. And back in the day, I was doing the VR stuff and the SGI, and it was back then it seemed purely like something that's a pure science project. But I think it's come along to the point where I can actually see it being meaningful to a consumer.
Yeah.
And we're at the cusp of it, and we're just at the cusp of starting it. We're not even close to done, but you put on the headset and you play, an immersive game, and it is different. And
I agree that this is no longer a joy, that there's some momentum to at least the
Absolutely, yeah.
Are there any other technologies like that you can name, any of these peripheral technologies where you say, this is really valuable, this is a reason that I would buy this device, that I would go PC even perhaps, because I feel that there's enough momentum and enough interest in that it's not just a game.
There are other guys in that same space who maybe aren't public, so we're not to say they are, but I mean, there's definitely lots going on in that area.
There's lots of interesting just display technology innovation going on too. So the
yeah.
VR stuff, so Nvidia's doing some work in that space with G-Sync, trying to solve the old problem of the GPU being enslaved to the display. We're trying to make the display kind of synchronized to the GPU, which solves a bunch of fundamental problems. But there's other really interesting problems to be solved. Near field displays, low persistence displays, super high resolution displays, super fast response times. All of it's trying to push the boundaries from immersiveness, so that if you put the display at your eyeballs, you don't see pixels, you don't see the screen door effect, you don't get blur.
Or if you get a wider field of view.
Or if you want to put your 30-inch 4K display up or put 3 of them around, you don't necessarily need to unplug your dryer to plug in your PC to power it, that kind of stuff.
So let me go from there to, there's this other device that might be competing with all of these, the mobile, the consoles, the existing Windows PCs, called the Steam machines. And they're going to be, some of them are going to be Linux-based boxes that run Valve's Steam platform, has loads and loads of games on it. For Windows side, maybe not for Linux. I'm curious if you're seeing enough interest in Linux that you think they've got a chance to build, a nice living room PC box that plays games?
Well, you guys are working with them. I'll go first. Again, it's going to be drawn by consumer demand. Yeah, like Steam is obviously a fantastic platform. Tons of great games, 65 million accounts. I mean, it's a juggernaut. And so it's just a question of, will Steam consumers buy the SteamBox, use the SteamBox, and play for games on
But
Steam?
I think the chicken and egg goes the other way around.
No.
The developers build games for it.
I think the developers will support it. I mean, it's Valve, it's Steam. I certainly, if I was making a game for 2 years from now, and I guess maybe it's a little premature because we don't really know the price of the Steam box. In other words, it's hard to guess the success. On one hand, it's hard to guess the success of the Steam box because we don't know the form factor, we don't know the prices, we don't know anything, hard details about it yet. So it's a difficult question. On the other hand, we know how great Steam is, how good the experience is, how smart Valve is, how good they are at running the service. I mean, they're gods. And so you just assume they're going to get all the other things right. And assuming they do, and the consumers come, then SteamOS, as opposed to Linux itself, will be popular. And I mean, once you're on SteamOS, you're on.
And I think you don't have to think of it the same way you think of a traditional game platform like a console. But they can be at this for a while. The PC, when it started, was not the preeminent game platform. It took a while, right? They can get going, get the ecosystem going, and let the developers come. They don't have to launch with, I've got to have Rangers with Forza.
Yeah.
They don't have to do that. They can get it out there. There's already 300 or so games on Linux that you can get on Steam.
Mostly smaller games.
Some of them are great.
All the
There are
Valve
some
games.
great
All the Valve
games.
games.
And Valve does some pretty good games too. So we'll see how it develops. But certainly, whatever you believe, you have to believe that it has more success in Linux. It has more chance of success now with Valve behind it pushing it than it did before. And it's really hard to count Valve out of anything.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet against Valve. They're pretty awesome.
So the next question is, do we need a box at all? We've talked a bit in the past, Tony, you and I haven't got to talk to you much, Mark, about cloud gaming. We started out saying it's not proven yet.
I don't think it is yet, but I think, to me, cloud is one of those things that there's enough technology vectors going in enough of the right directions that I think some portion of the gaming space is going to go there eventually. Bandwidth is getting cheaper, latencies are getting smaller, GPUs are getting more power efficient, the ability to run multiple games on smaller and smaller servers is increasing. The convenience factor of it seems pretty compelling. I think back to when I thought about MP3s versus CDs, and I was in the, MP3 sucks, the sound quality of CD is going to, win. Oops. Right? So I think at some point the convenience factor is going to be compelling enough, and the pervasiveness of the technology will be compelling enough that some portion of the market will go there. Not all of it, and it's not going to change all gaming. We're all going to go from the cloud, but some portion I think will eventually. And we're in the position that we can just keep investing on it to make it better. Because we're not a startup. We have a real business. We sell chips and stuff like that. And when the technologies get to the point where it's appropriate, we want to be there and help enable it to happen.
The lucky thing is Nvidia sells GPUs for supercomputers and weather forecasters and universities and it can also be cloud. So, the hardware is there and the ability to do cool things is there. I saw a really awesome demo. One of our developers is doing a game that uses the cloud to do all the physics. And it does a massive, ridiculous amount of physics not possible on one computer or even on one GPU, CPU combination. So, who knows what cloud games
I was going to ask about that, Mark, you in particular. When you think about just limitless power, but miles away, you got to figure out the latency of cloud gaming because it has to serve up these frames to you. But the limitless power, what would you do? What would a game look like? Could you afford to build a game that could use all of that?
It was pretty freaking sweet. So, people will do it, and it's just a matter of making it economical and working around the limit, doing things that are not super boundaried by those kinds of limitations like latency.
It's possible to build games and just rethink everything. Huge memory footprints. Instead of launching 32 instances of a game, each on 32 platforms, you have one game running with 32 views into it. one giant database, one giant world.
100
Huge
Well,
physical
you-
simulation, all being
Right.
shared across those users. I mean, if you're willing to rethink the way you do games, you can really change a lot of things.
I feel like one game like that, one ridiculous experience, encapsulated in maybe, just even if you have an arcade style where you have to go and you have to pay, a couple bucks every time you play it for a few minutes or something like that, would be amazing. And is there, do you know if there's any developers who are actually working on such a thing?
Yep, there's one of our customers is working on
Yeah. Okay. I want to try it. At least.
it. You will try,
Um,
I'm sure. It'll
so-
be a big game.
Cloud gaming, it's a ways out still. You think?
Well, so I think there's plenty of people doing it now. It's not the dominant way to game, but I think all the trends and all the vectors are going in a way that says that it's going to be important. And whether it's important this year or next year or the year after, I don't really think a question of, it's not if really anymore, I just really think it's when.
I think Microsoft's actually made it one of the basic premises of Xbox One. I mean, they're going to start, cloud gaming is going to be, what they say, 300,000 dedicated servers in the cloud to use as your game sees fit. Most of them will use them as dedicated servers, but some will use them for more interesting things. And Sony owns Gaikai, and they've said they're going to have, something cloud-based. So, yeah, I think even just this console generation, you're definitely going to see the cloud play a nice role.
Well, we need to wrap up here, but I just want to ask one last question. So cloud is coming, but yet in 2013 we still have discs in our video game consoles, and I still see even PC game discs on shelves. When are we going to get rid of the discs and go digital? Do you think that's going to be something on the horizon?
That's it. I haven't really pondered that. I haven't bought a physical piece of media in so long, I can't remember. So, people still do. So, hard to say.
Yeah, I haven't seen that League of Legends disc on store shelves. So I think some games have already done it.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks.